What's up, Niners faithful? This is Juju Talk Sports. That's Jose Corral. And we're coming to you here on a bitter note. It's times like this that really test the faith. And you have to remember, sometimes you're just not mad. You're really just disappointed. And I would say week one was definitely what you would call a disappointment, as our Niners lost to the Arizona Cardinals at home 24-20. Jose, how you feeling?
Disappointed is the perfect way to put it. Not mad because I knew there was we were thin in a couple of positions, a couple of key positions going into the game, but still it felt like we underperformed. The guys that were out there that actually played, I felt like they underperformed immensely actually against this Cardinals team. So disappointed is the perfect way to put it. Disappointed actually on both sides of the ball, and we'll get into that a little bit more to see where we're disappointed at. But overall feeling, just pure disappointment.
Well, as avid Jimmy G defenders, I will say not his best game. But I think an important thing to consider is the wide receiving core. This game, the holes, the lack of depth, the injuries, they all reared their ugly heads. The highest targeted wide receiver today was Kendrick Bourne, 5 targets, 2 catches for 34 yards. I know Jimmy targeted him on that late, what could have been a go-ahead touchdown, bounced off the head of Patrick Peterson. I will say this on the broadcast there, giving Patrick Peterson credit for, just having his head in the way of the ball. It's like, okay, fair, whatever. I don't think that's a testament to how great of a corner he is. But at the same time, yeah, this wide receiving core is a mess, Jose. What did you think of the play we saw out there today?
Actually, I kind of want to touch on that Kendrick Bourne play with Patrick Peterson. Dude, the ball's not going to get to you. Patrick Peterson's turned the other way. If you just kind of slow down and literally kind of just make your way towards Patrick Peterson, you get the PI call right there because Patrick Peterson is turned around the whole time. And the ball is going to be a little bit short. The ball's not going to get to the corner of the end zone where it should have gone. Again, Jimmy Garoppolo did not have his best game. That ball should have gone to the corner of the end zone. Patrick Peterson was beat on that play. And like you said, his helmet just happened to get in the way. So Kendrick Bourne, next time, do us a favor, just step a couple of yards in front of that ball, and you run right into the path of Patrick Peterson, who wasn't even looking at the ball to begin with. PI call, we get the ball at literally the 1-yard line. But other than that, yeah, the wide receiver position is looking kind of sketchy right now. Trent Taylor, you're my guy, but maybe spend a little less time on Twitter and spend a little bit more time on the practice field because he looked horrendous. Kendrick Bourne had a couple of nice catches for some decent yardage. Other than that, it was non-existent. Dante Pettis was targeted once in that one kind of post route where he just hid between the two guys that happened to be covering him and really didn't do much of an effort to get open at all. And then other than that, no one else was really even had a chance to get open. And I know we have significant injuries at that position. You're kind of looking at your two main guys at that position being hurt right now. One guy that didn't even play, Deebo Samuel. So maybe that'll get fixed within time. But if we're speaking on just this game right now, yeah, the wide receiver position is looking very, very sketchy.
Well, the Niners made a very bold move by not going out to further address the position when they knew they had the injuries stacking up. Obviously, we talked about some veterans that were potentially out there at times that have been scooped up by other teams. Now, those guys are gone. So looking at what we have and projecting this team moving forward, we know we're not going to have Deebo for the next 3 weeks. And Brandon Ayuk is going to be coming back off a hamstring injury. Those are never easy to adjust to, and he's a rookie. So are we expecting that Brandon Ayuk is just going to come in, be a world beater, and be the ultimate answer to this 49ers wide receiving group? I think watching that game today and kind of flipping between red zone too, because, got to keep up with what's going on in Tampa Bay. Guess who I saw score a touchdown? Our old friend, Emmanuel Sanders. It'd be nice to have just a veteran wide receiver on this team. And at this point, I don't see a lot of great options out there unless the Bengals season continues to struggle more. Maybe a name like AJ Green becomes available. But short of that, that's a hole that I don't know if we're going to be able to fix throughout time. So how do we address that? How do we get better? Because the only guys that seem to be doing anything in the passing game were the running back position. Mostert, he had that big 76-yard touchdown or 70-yard touchdown earlier in the game. We did have George Kittle go down with an injury at a certain point too. So we kind of wonder, I wouldn't be surprised if George shows up on the injury report throughout this week. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. We know he's a gamer and he'll try and play through stuff. So if he is hurt, then that might be a situation monitor. I didn't see a lot of Jordan Reed out there today either. I was expecting him to be a little bit. Yeah, I expected him to be a little bit more involved given the situation that we were seeing at the wide receiving group. But he did have a noticeable lack of field. I wonder if that's just trying to, again, ease him in because we know Jordan Reed's injury history, so you don't want to give him a high snap count. He gets hurt, and then there's another guy down, and we just can't afford more guys on this injury report. Jose? I don't know what it is about the Niners and injuries, but I'm tempted. I'm starting going down that dark place in my mind where it's like, are we going to send a AB, hey, you up, tech at this point? Because I don't know what else to do. If we keep having injuries at this core position.
I don't want to place the blame on injuries, especially because the guys that were out there did not play well. Okay, that just came down to a matter of fact. Cardinals played better today, and that's just a matter of fact. But it's also a fact that, yes, we are thin at that position. And to kind of answer your question there, a quick fix would be we can't really depend on Kendrick Bourne being our number one receiver week in and week out. We talked about it a little before once we had a couple of videos on their wide receiver position where it's like, wait, maybe Kendrick Bourne can be that guy. If week one is any indication, okay, he's not going to be that guy who is just going to step into that wide receiver number one role. I think you just have to get Raheem Mostert even more involved than what he was right now. I know now he had that huge touchdown pass. George Kittle, again, it's going to be interesting to see how significant his injury is going to be. But with Raheem Mostert and even Tevin Coleman, even Jerick McKinnon, get the running backs even more touches now because we can't really depend on any of these wide receivers. So a short-term solution would be play out of the backfield. Play out of the backfield as much as you can. And once defenses start catching on during late games, go to your best player, George Kittle, for those late game situations. And maybe then teams will just get more focused into that middle part of their defense to where they're going to just go ahead and focus on more on the running backs and the tight ends. And maybe some guys will free up. Maybe Trent Taylor, Kendrick Bourne will have a little bit more open space to get open. And that way they'll get more involved. But I think for now, if we're looking short term, that's got to be our way. And long term, we just got to get healthy. Deebo Samuel, once Deebo Samuel gets onto the field, once Brandon Ayuk will get into the field, you're going to see this offense change dramatically, and you're going to see Jimmy Garoppolo be a little bit more comfortable and completing a lot more passes as well.
You definitely do notice the lack of preseason games coming into play, I feel. But if anything, I should stay with that. I would expect it to hit a team like the Cardinals, a much younger team, a lot harder. So definitely disappointing on that regard. Let's talk about the other side of the ball, defense. So in terms of how the Niners defense performed, they were fine the majority of the game, I felt. They came up with big stops. It seemed like they were containing Kyler Murray. There was one noticeable matchup that we kind of touched on in our preview video, DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, he had a career high in catches for the game, 14 catches for 151 yards in a almost touchdown. He was just beating up Emmanuel Mosley. There was no chance anytime he was lined up against Emmanuel Mosley on that side of the field. He managed to get lucky and get K'Wan Williams on a hold on that pivotal last couple of drives there. It was just apparent that we do have a problem at the cornerback position as well, aside from Richard Sherman. And Richard Sherman, obviously, we know the holes in his game. But for the most part, they didn't beat him too much. He missed a tackle at one point on that Kyler Murray scramble for a 30-plus yard touchdown. Yeah. But I'm not going to hold that on Richard Sherman. The guy is elusive. Even though I will say this, I saw a very applicable Twitter meme about Kyler Murray that he looks like a toddler when he's running in space. Just swinging the arms here like he broke a vase in there. But that's neither here nor there. Second cornerback position. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, that's one of the other positions that we kind of had a question coming into the season. I'm not necessarily going to go ahead and say, okay, maybe week 2 we should start Ahkello Witherspoon over Emmanuel Mosley because that's just a tough matchup. I know Richard Sherman typically, even when he was with Seattle, you like to have him lined up to the left. Maybe it's time to just put him against the best receiver, no matter where that receiver is at. Because in Seattle, you could get away with that. In Seattle, you had other great secondary players. Right now with this team, you don't have that. You don't have a second quarterback that could really go up against, a top receiver like DeAndre Hopkins. And we saw that. DeAndre Hopkins just went off for 15 catches, a career high for him. Thank you, Bill O'Brien, for making our life a living hell. We'll probably speak on that later. But I think Richard Sherman we need to get into a habit of him being the guy that just wherever the opposing team's best receiver is at, just line him up there. I know he loves lining up on that left side, and that's usually his comfortable spot. But if we're going to have games like this where top receivers are just going to run all over the secondary, I don't think we can afford to do that. I'm not going to jump ship on Emmanuel Mosley and say, okay, let's start Okello Witherspoon or even K'Wan Williams maybe in week 2, but he did have a tough time out there. It was against one of the better receivers in the league, but that is a very, very big question mark, especially seeing what Seattle did, especially to see what type of productivity the Rams offense is going to be having tonight, actually Sunday Night Football. So to me, the secondary is a huge, huge question mark, which we have to keep an eye out, especially that second cornerback position. I'm still leaning towards keeping Emmanuel Mosley there just because I like consistency when it comes to the secondary. But at some point, the man needs some help. He's going to need some help, especially if other teams know this as well, that Richard Sherman likes to line up on one side and that's about it. So, of course, other opposing offenses, they're just going to line up their best receiver on the opposite side of Richard Sherman and then just kind of pick their poison with Emmanuel Mosley. So he needs some help. I would like to see Richard Sherman just kind of step up into a bigger role where wherever the best receiver lines up, that's where he's going to be.
See, I would love to say that. And I've, of course, grown a great appreciation for watching Richard Sherman in his time with the Niners. But I don't think he's that guy anymore that could just step up with the number one wide receiver each and every play, line up on their side of the field. Even if he was maybe at one point, I don't think he's that guy now. Just based off the Super Bowl, we've seen guys, Sammy Watkins, shake him out of the boots. It can happen from time to time. So the last thing I want to do is move him around the field consistently because I think that could create more problems. At the bare minimum, we know at least the left side of our defense is taken care of in the secondary with having Richard Sherman there. Now it's just how do we fix that right side? How do we get that going? And I think it's nothing we can fix this season, to be honest, because there's not going to be a top flight cornerback that's going to become available. We're just going to have to roll with the guys we got. That's going to be Emmanuel Mosley, Cal Witherspoon, and Jason Verrett. Jason Verrett, of course, has a hamstring injury. I should note at one point in his career, the full season he played, he was a Pro Bowler. If we could somehow get that kind of Jason Verrett there, maybe there might be an opportunity there. But for the meantime, I think you're right. We do have to just roll with E-Man. He did earn the job and win the job out of both training camp and what he did in last year's regular season and, of course, postseason. Okello, I think his time with the Niners is almost done anyway. It's just, like you said, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a consistent matchup problem overall. I just wonder how the Niners are going to treat it. Are we going to treat it like Belichick, where we're not going to let your number one guy beat you? Or are we going to just say he can score as many points as we want, we're going to shut down everyone else? Because here against Arizona, that wasn't the game plan today. You know what? Let's end this on a positive note. So we know the undefeated season's over, but hey, bright side, that stress of going perfect, it's gone. We don't have to worry about that. That weight on our shoulders. Steve Young, remember the Super Bowl when he said, "Get that monkey off my back"? Come on, that undefeated 2020 revenge tour, that's no longer any concern. And hey, you want to know what even better news is? We're going to play the New York Jets next week. So Niners faithful, at least we'll go back on that. I don't care who's starting at wide receiver. You might be able to start Jose and myself at wide receiver. We're playing the Jets next week. So keep the faith faithful. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you with better news next week, hopefully.